would like to start off with asking you two questions, just to make you think a bit. Yes, there's a spot. Yeah. And those questions are: can you recall the best professional team that you have been part of that you have seen? So try to get a picture of that team in your mind, what it was to be part of that team. Now think about the worst team you were part of or have seen. Think about how that felt. What was the context? What were the characteristics there? Because that's what we're going to talk about in this talk. What about team effectiveness, team performance? What makes a team perform? What makes a team effective? And probably you have some guesses, and we'll come back to that later. Let's introduce myself a bit. I'm Martijn van Asseldonk. I'm Dutch, so pardon for my broken English and my zero knowledge of the Lithuanian language. Sorry. I'm an Agile coach and a professional Scrum trainer for Scrum.org, independent. I've been doing this for quite some years now. I've worked with some big corporates in the Netherlands, some big banks, but also the Dutch railways, which I will talk about a bit more. And Ahold Delhaize, one of the biggest food retailers, and use them as an example as well. So that's enough about me. Let's talk about some specific stories I have I want to share with you, because I've been inspired today. I saw again lots of leadership models, great keynote, some nice talks about tribes and tribal leadership. So that got me inspired, but when I enter an organization, most of the times I'm hired because, well, it's not going that well. I see teams that are performing well, but most of the times I'm being called in because team is not performing well or department is not performing well. So most of the times it's not all in the cloud and we're not there yet. So then I'm called in and I try to help. So let me start off with one of the teams that I coached at the Dutch Railways. Was the team that was creating the software for their vending machines where you could buy tickets. And that's a system that's a bit out of life, because nowadays you just use an NFC chip and you only use that terminal to put some money on it. So difficult team, difficult vision. A product owner that was at the headquarters and the team was at a different office, so that didn't help. There were some gifted developers there. One of the developers had been developing the system from the start. But at some, I don't know, way, he couldn't make like the big decisions. He could, if you could tell him what he should be doing, he would do it. But he had no real vision of his own. Even technically, that was difficult. The product owner, as I said, at a distance, was really not interested in technical stuff. So he had a bit of a vision, not much, because he had an end-of-life product. What can you do? And was more of a project manager. So that also didn't really help. So they clashed. I got together with the team and decided that we should do a workshop, as we Agile coaches do, of course. And yeah, join. Thanks. The more the merrier. So I created a workshop around, let's get some roles clear and some goals clear. And of the presentation you've seen, that helps, that sets some clear guidance on where the team should be going and how to collaborate together. So did that workshop, and it was really tough. For instance, they would like to discuss and discuss and discuss and not come to a decision. Decision making was really difficult in this team, and I couldn't figure out why. So I talked to the Scrum Master, I talked to the product owner, and I said, well, this team is really risk averse. They don't want to try new things. They don't want to decide. So what's going on here? And he said, yeah, I don't know exactly what it is, and it's true. We're working with an old legacy system, and there came all these external reasons why they were not performing. But I thought, okay, there's something wrong here. And in the weeks working with them, I saw that, well, there wasn't much trust. And, well, the product owner told me that in those words, I don't trust the team. And the team told in the same words, well, I don't trust the product owner because he has no vision. So I decided to do a team building workshop, put them together, and making sure that they knew each other, knew their backgrounds, knew their experiences, and shared that. And that helped to some extent, but not enough. Still, for my feeling, there was no trust yet. But what to do when there is no trust? Trust is really big. So in a few months later, I had improved, but not the way I would like to have the team improve. Compare that with another team. I worked at, as I said, Ahold Delhaize, a food retailer, and the team that I was assigned for first was a team working on some new functionality to provide some sort of Amazon Prime type of service. So you could buy off your the cost that you had to pay to deliver. So I worked with them, and the first retrospective I sat in with them, they started with their sprint results that were good, and they started with measuring their happiness, which they always did, which was nice. And one of the team members indicated that he was low on happiness, say 2 on a scale of 1 to 5. And when the Scrum Master asked him, why did you give it 2? He said, well, it's a rule, one of the developers, front-end developers. I'm sitting next to Sherwin. Sherwin is a tester. And Sherwin eats all day. And it's really annoying. He chews gum, and it makes a lot of noise. I find it distasteful. And, well, I don't like working like this. So I was like, okay, that's open, that's transparent. And we Dutch, we are known for our directness, but if you come to us, it's not all the time this way. A lot of Dutch are really, they avoid conflicts. And me, personally, I'm more like that naturally, so. But he said that, and it was cool, because Sherwin said, well, oh, I didn't know that that had that effect on you. I'm sorry about that. Could we work this out in a different way? And one of the other team members, Marcel, said, well, we could trade places, and then I'll be next to Sherwin. I don't mind. I hear him eat, but I don't mind that much, so let's just switch. And I did, and in about, I think, 2 minutes, the whole thing that could be a conflict was gone. So I thought, okay, there is trust here, so it can work. It's nice. How did they get there? What made it that this team performed this way? So that got me into some research, and I'll share that with you, research from Google on team effectiveness. But to get into that, let's first look at what team is and what effectiveness is, because I think the research has been done with proper teams, and I've worked with teams, but also worked with work groups. And maybe you know them. The work groups are people that are reporting to the same manager, but they're not working as a proper team. They're not multidisciplinary. They see each other and they share knowledge, but they're not creating a shared product. They don't have a shared objective. A team does, and a team depends on each other to deliver something. So they cannot on their own finish a piece of work. They are dependent on each other. So that's a proper team. And in a proper team, you really need trust to be effective. You need psychological safety. I'll come to that. So what's effectiveness? The performance of the team. And I like this definition. It's from research in the field, and it's not only a team is performant if it can deliver their objectives and goals, but also in a way that they improve themselves, that they get better, that they are more satisfied, that team members want to be part of their team, and they feel like the team is part of their identity. We're talking about tribes. They are the tribe. They are part of it. Part of their identity. They think is the team. They're proud of that. So I'll use this definition as performance, not just the outcome, the results, but also how it makes the people feel. Then I saw this research from Google, Project Aristotle. Maybe some of you have heard of it. Google, of course, being a data-driven company, it's really big, has the power to do a lot of research projects, and they do. And one of them was finding out what makes a team effective. Therefore, they interviewed more than 200 people. They gathered information about more than 250 characteristics of teams, and more than 180 teams were used in that research. And they defined team effectiveness by looking at the results, but not just the results. Also, it was rated by their executives, their team leaders, and by themselves. So from different viewpoints, they got an idea about their team effectiveness. And what they had found was that not IQ or skills or experience of team members or EQ did add to this performance of the team. It was different criteria. And of course, you could guess one of those criteria was psychological safety. But the other criteria to get the complete picture were dependability also. Psychological safety, by the way, means that the team feels safe to take some interpersonal risks. So they don't think they will be embarrassed if they try something new or ask a question. Dependability is in how much they know and believe that they will perform and will say what they will do. The team members hold them accountable to their promises. So if that's in place, it's probably a performing team. Also, structure and clarity. So are roles clear? Are goals also clear? And also, do they have a plan how to reach those? That adds up to team performance. Also, is their work meaningful? Individually meaningful? Do we personally feel that this is meaningful work and impact? Does it really impact the users of our product? Does it make a difference, this product, what we're working on, this stuff that we're doing? Psychological safety was by far the biggest contributor to team effectiveness. So I thought, okay, I've seen different teams, I've seen different context, and if psychological safety is such a big thing, then maybe I should measure this and use this in my teams to see whether they're performing or not, or if it's there, and if it's not there, to make sure that it gets there. Psychological safety is a term that is mainly used in effective error management, or more important, learning behavior, research into learning behaviors. And of course, learning behavior is critical to agile teams, because agile teams need to learn. They employ empirical process control. They use iteration to test hypotheses, to test their ideas, so inspect and adapt. So they need to be able to learn. So psychological safety is very important for them. Psychological safety is defined, as I mentioned, by the belief that it's safe to take interpersonal risks in a team. And the professor that's mainly active in this field, Amy Edmondson from Harvard, has a nice analogy. She says, it's not about putting the power on the gas if you have a car. Psychological safety is about letting go of the brake and then being able to put on the gas. It's a powerful metaphor, I think. So I started experimenting with this. Started with one of the Scrum Masters. I wrote a blog about this, by the way, and one of the Scrum Masters at the Dutch Railways read that blog and thought, well, maybe we can collaborate and come up with some workshop to measure this. Psychological safety is defined with some specific questions we could use from the research of Edmondson. So we set out to create this workshop and created a format and tested it with a group of Scrum Masters. And yes, this is a group of Scrum Masters. It's not a team. We're just Scrum Masters. We're sharing our knowledge, but our main team is the teams that we help. So we're a group. I know this is just a shortcoming, but it was the first experiment. So we plotted those questions on scales from most unsafe to most safe. And one by one asked the group about how they felt on each of the questions. And I'll go into the questions after this. So we would fill it in as a group, and we would look at the results and discuss them. And sometimes, most of the times, we were on the safe side, but sometimes we had some interesting results. One of the Scrum Masters, a new guy that just joined, indicated on the question, do you feel safe to ask for help, that no, it was not really on the safe side. He said, well, I'm a bit anxious to ask a question because it might seem that I'm incompetent or I don't know everything, and I don't want to take that risk, but I do want to take the risk to raise it at least. So we had a discussion about that, which was really powerful. At the same time, when looking at this, we realized doing it in this way already means that you have some psychological safety. It should be safe to say that you're not safe. If it's not, then you're not going to get these results. So if you are with a team and you feel that there's not a lot of psychological safety, doing it in this way probably gets you not the real results. Probably there's some social norms then that they are going to confide to. So in another team, I did it in a different way. But let's look at the questions on assessing psychological safety. There are things like asking for help, but also, do we dare to raise difficult issues and questions? Do we feel safe to take risks? Do we feel valued? Do we feel respected? Stuff like that. And for me, this was really tangible. Really, when I was thinking about trust in a team, it was big and fuzzy, but this made it really tangible. So I thought, okay, cool. That's nice information. After doing that workshop, I was working at Ahold Delhaize, and I was coaching a new team. And this team was a database developers team. And the first retrospective, I joined there. And Eric, the Scrum Master, was going to the whiteboard and writing down a plus and a minus. And they all started just writing down on Post-its, as maybe many teams do. And Carl, one of the developers, he had written some notes and then got to his laptop, which he brought to the retrospective. And it was my first retrospective with those guys. So I was in observation mode. I think, okay, well, let's shut it. Not go in directly, but just see what happens here. So he's working on his laptop, and the rest is writing notes. And then some guys were also ready with writing notes, and then looked at their phones until everyone was ready. And Eric, Scrum Master, was doing some clustering, and then looking at the board and what the issues were. And one of the issues was there was a bug in this sprint, which made that they lost valuable time, 2 days work, and they didn't reach their sprint goal. So it was not a really successful sprint. And they started discussing this bug. No, common, right? But what I saw and what I felt was that they were not letting each other speak, not finishing their sentences. They were trying to get across their points. At some point there was some blaming other team members, blaming the outside world, other teams. So I thought, okay. I think I've seen this before. I think what's lacking here is some trust. So maybe there is something here. I started off with them mirroring what I saw at the end of the retrospective. So I said to them, well, here's what I see. Here's my observation. I see that you don't really listen to each other. You talk just to be heard. And you're blaming. And they didn't recognize it. I said, no, you're kidding. It's fine, right? We're not that harsh on each other, and we're not blaming each other. We're just figuring this out. Okay, I see differently, but okay, let's see. So in the coming weeks, I still saw this behavior. I talked to people one-on-one. And when I talked to them one-on-one, they said, well, we're doing fine. We're doing good. I like it in the team. It could be better, of course. Every team could be better. I still like it. I think there's not a big problem here. But when I talked to the product owner, she said, well, I think there's a problem here. We're not delivering as much as we could. And I have the feeling that we're getting complacent, and I have the feeling that everybody is just doing their individual jobs and there's not a sense of team. And I agreed with her. And I said, well, I know this research about psychological safety, and I would like to measure it. So I set out to measure that. Using the survey questions out of the questions of Edmondson. But this time I asked them personally, do you want to join in this little research project of mine? And would you like to fill in a survey? And they all liked to fill in the survey. And it was anonymous, I stressed. So they didn't know from each other who filled in what, which made it, I think, safe to fill it in. And they did. And these are the results. And they all scored their safety, psychological safety, on a scale from 1 to 5. 1 being the least safe to 5 being the most safest. So if you have a team with a lot of psychological safety, with a lot of trust, I think they're mainly on the safe side, 5s and 4s maybe. But here you see there are different results. There are also some 3s, even a 2. So looking at this item, discussing difficult issues and problems, well, you have an issue there. If you're on the 2, it means that you're probably not saying or raising difficult issues because you don't find it safe to do so in the team. Also, value and respecting each other's contribution. Well, it could be bigger. It's not optimal. That's not where you want it to be. On the other hand, they indicated that asking for help was not a problem. So not all's bad, but there definitely is something here in the team that could be improved. And when I showed them this in the retrospective, they were a bit surprised. So why is this? They thought, okay, so maybe things aren't as great as we thought it was. And I let it sink in that retrospective, and not addressed it directly because it's a complex thing. It just made them aware that it was not as good and as well as they thought it was. And at that moment in time, I had to leave the company, and which was a shame, because of course you want to take the next step here, and that is discovering how you are going to improve this psychological safety, making sure there's more of it and foster it. So I would like to invite you to think with me about how are you going to foster psychological safety. So I would like to set you, as a coach that I am, to work. Think about this. You've thought about what makes a team effective, what are the contexts in a team, and probably psychological safety is in the teams that you thought of that were high performant, psychological safety is there. So let's do a quick brainstorm. And I don't know, do you know the 1-2-4 liberating structure? Maybe not all of you. Think about this for a minute individually. So what can you do as Scrum Master, as an Agile coach, as a team member, as a manager to improve and foster psychological safety? Think about this for a minute. Then after that minute, let's form couples. So talk to your neighbor and discuss and see if you come up with a nice plan. Then we'll do the 4 or 5 if you're rows of 5, or 6 is a big group. It's a bit too big, I think. But just find a bigger group and discuss about this subject, and then we'll come together and look at this. Yeah? Okay. Think about this for a minute first. 1 minute. Write it down if you have something, or keep it in mind. What are ways to improve psychological safety? Yeah, do you all have an idea? See people talking to each other already? Yeah? Okay, let's find your neighbor and discuss this. Take another minute. Okay. Could you now form groups of 4 or 5 or 6 and discuss this together? What are your best ideas? So carry on. Okay. I'm really curious. Thank you. In the back, you know it. It's like what we do in school, right? So, let's see what you have discussed and come up with. Just pop up. Just if you want to share something, just stand up and and shout. Who wants to go first? Thank you. No problem.
We came up with three things. I think it's one is the blameless environment. Second one is guidance. If you fail, you have to show a way how you can just recover yourself. And second, third was I think it was encouragement.
Okay.
So show yourself and do something and then make yourself do something.
Okay, thank you. So, blameless environment, encouraging, and second one? Guidance. Okay, thank you. Thanks. Anyone else? Did talk about something. I'm getting more and more curious about what.
We're talking about having some goals and actually
One go? Yeah.
talking about team working towards one unit and actually being more like friends and getting to know people on a personal level rather than looking at them as an individual, you know.
Good point.
Another thing we talk about is feedback. If you manage to go to like deeper level feedback rather than just something generic, then that will
Okay, yeah, nice. So feedback, goals, and getting to know each other personally. Cool. Nice one, and nice to mention that. Yeah, we're working with humans, teams. We cannot switch just parts and then expect the results you thought of before. It's more complex than that. It's a good one. Anyone else? Constructive feedback, yeah. So the same points, yeah. Cool, nice. See some patterns here, yeah. Anyone else who really wants to share? No, good points. From the research, they give also some guidance. So it's engagement, some inclusiveness, making sure that everybody is making contributions. And this is a lot from the viewpoint of a manager or a leader or a scrum master. And of course, as team member, you can also help the team to create that context, that team culture. So there are different ways. I'm experimenting with them at the moment. But I've not reached any conclusion about, okay, how this is the thing you need to turn, this knob you need to turn, and there are many. We're dealing with people and they're complex. So it's trying to improve, trying to make sure that you create an environment that's safe to take risks. So with that, I'll thank you and leave some time for questions. Any questions?
And we already have some questions there.
What can we do to help team raise hard issues? For me, it's making them see that there are hard issues. So just putting up a mirror, making it tangible. So as I did with the team that I measured psychological safety with, this helped me to let them see that there was something different than they expected. So first off, making sure that they see what is happening by giving them a mirror. And what also can help is, of course, being vulnerable yourself, so raising issues yourself. Be the example. If you're a team member and you think that your team can be more psychologically safe, can be taking more risks, take more risks yourself. Be that example. That really helps in my experience. Other questions?
Another one.
Okay. Have you solved your first risk-averse team trust issues? If so, how? Well, the team that comes to mind, which I helped at the Dutch Railways, trust issues, got rid of them a bit by making, again, the team know that there were trust issues, just raising them. The risk awareness or the risk averseness was still in the team. And in my opinion, needs someone, an outsider maybe. I've coached a team, a different department also at the Dutch Railways, that got a new developer. And that was a straightforward guy who really wanted to create some results. And he just tried things and broke things also. But he was the one that got the team into motion just by, again, just being the example. Taking the risk, because that was what he was used to. So maybe sometimes it helps to have an external influence get into the team. Risk-averse people, making them less risk-averse is very difficult, in my opinion. You really need to, it's something personal for a part, and you need to see the actual results and see that it is safe to do, to be able to do so. How would you deal with the biggest bull in the team? Yeah, good question. Well, use the collective of the team, I would say. In one of the teams I coached at Ahold, one of the guys was really straightforward, always the biggest mouth. But it helps to see that, and then, of course, again, mirror it to the team. What I did, for instance, was during a retrospective, and there was some hard issue, and this guy was really pounding on his view. I said, okay, now you shut up, and the rest is going to talk. And the rest talked, and could support each other. And in that way, I had to force a bit that the team would speak up, the rest of the team would speak up, and this bully would not speak up as much. And, well, it wasn't really something that he wanted to do, and he wasn't really aware. So when the team spoke up, he saw, okay, and he said, well, okay, I didn't know that I came across so difficult or so hard or bullish. That was not my intention. So that was the feedback, again, of the team towards themselves. They needed some help. Sometimes you just need to say, shut up, and let the team do their work. Yeah, Dutch, so I say shut up a lot. How to raise teams' morale after failed sprints, leaving members. Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah. Try to celebrate failures by learnings. Maybe reframe it. So we failed, maybe, but what did we learn? Probably we did learn something. And if you have a success, also celebrate it. Do something special. Go out. Shake up your retrospectives. Go to the park. Go to the bar. I did retrospectives in the bar. It's really nice. Really nice for team morale. So do the things you otherwise also would do for team morale. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for interacting. How to get listened if boss not listening to you. Now we get into politics. Yeah, try to find another sponsor besides your boss. Not going behind his back to his boss. That's not a good idea. But try to get sponsors on the same level. Maybe the colleague of your boss, or maybe different people in the hierarchy that can help you and sponsor you. Hope that answers your question. It's really small. Distributed teams. That's a nice one. One of the factors that Google also researched was co-location of teams. And as Agile coaches, we're inclined to say, and I'm inclined to say, put people together. That's the best way to work together. Google found no significant relationship between co-location and performance. So it can work, probably. With Google, it does. And I know some other examples that work. In my experience, it still makes communication very, very difficult. But yeah, communication is key here. So distributed teams, try to get them physically together, because if you want to be a team, if you want to get to know each other really, then you need to see each other in real life. And after that, communicate a lot, video conferencing, stuff like that, to get a feel about what's happening in the team. Should the Scrum Master participate? What a lot of questions. Nice. Should the Scrum Master participate in the survey, psychological safety? That's a good question, indeed. I would say yes. Scrum Master is part of the team, of the Scrum team, I would say. So has also influence on the team climate, is one of the factors that influences team climate. So yes, I would, especially, well, not especially, but also the product owner should be included as well. So the whole team that together creates a product. Without psychological safety, how to work with a team without psychological. Manager is not an example. Fire your manager. I would try to set an example, step by step. Make small experiments. Show that you can take some risk and just try to build upon that. So if you are in a team without psychological safety, first measure it, so you know that it really is true. There is little psychological safety. Then discuss with your team how to improve together and make small experiments to improve it. Yes, I do. No questions anymore.
There is no more questions. Okay, it's time to vote.
Thank you.